Hi, BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So, I got some books to talk to you guys about. First, I'm going to talk about what I'm currently reading, how I'm making progress this month, my birthday month, actually. And then I'm going to talk about the books I just hauled. Like, we went to lunch, my mom and I we went into this new Mexican restaurant. It was really good. I had taco salad. It was very satisfying and enjoyable. And, I ate like all of it except the bowl was a taco shell, and I did not eat that. I didn't eat that part because I was pretty full. So after lunch, I figured let me just go to the roast office. So I did that. And also I didn't because it was raining this morning. I didn't go for my walk this morning, so I was using that as when I walk home from the bookstore. I was going to use that as my counting to my walking goal. Anyway, so first let me talk about what I'm currently reading. So both these books I'm almost done with. So first we have the next book in my journey through Filipino literature. So we have The Last Time I Saw Mother by Arlene J. Chai. And this is about a young woman who dad. She lives in Sydney, Australia, with her husband Jamie, although they are thinking about getting a divorce, and her daughter Marla. And her mom never writes to her. She only hears about what's going on with her family from her cousin Mia. And all of a sudden she receives a letter that it is actually her mom in her mom's handwriting. Her mom wrote the letter asking her to come home because she has something to tell her. So she makes the trip to Manila, and she finds out some interesting secrets about her family's past. So now the book takes place right after the Marcos regime in the present day, but we are told about the past by Dad's mom and aunt, and now we're up to the chapter we I'm working. I don't know if I just let me see. Did I just I think I'm in the middle of the chapter from her cousin's point of view. And yeah, where I'm on that chapter, that section of the book. And so, because we're hearing about the past, we get what was going on in World War II and when the Japanese came and took over. And so I feel like with Filipino literature, I'm probably going to get a lot of stories about that, about World War II. It's either what happened in the 1800s, in the early 1900s when Spain colonized them, or we're going to get a lot of World War II stories. And so I definitely I'm glad I read The Tale of Genji before I started this one, because I started out the month finishing When Elephants Dance, which is also a World War II book about a family in hiding in a cellar of their own home so they won't get caught by the Japanese and put in internment camps, or even worse, tortured. And so this one also covers that, so I had to put, The Tale of Genji in between those books. I'm also, I'm also not going to be, I'm definitely going to jump in. When I'm done with this one, there's another one of my Filipino books I'm definitely going to jump into right after it, because, it's not going to be, I'm not feeling like, oh, I'm exhausted, I can't read another book about all the horrors of World War II for them. So I am enjoying this. It is a very sad story, but I'm still liking it. I mean, but obviously I'm engaged in the story. I'm enjoying it. And like I said, I always feel weird saying the word enjoy when talking about a tragic story, but I don't know what other word to use to describe my feelings. It's a very good book. It is a very sad, very bittersweet book, because there's a lot of tragedy, but there's also some happy moments, and I feel like it's gonna have at least a bittersweet ending when I get to the ending. I do like how we're getting multi perspectives. Like each of her Cara Dad's family members are each telling their side of the story in each of the sections, and we get Cara Dad's experience in the beginning, her perspective in the beginning, and I'm guessing we're gonna get her experience again towards the end of the book. I don't know, but I would assume she would bookend the story. So to have a reprieve, I am also reading Stephen King's The Eyes of the Dragon. So this is one of his fantasy books. The character of Randall Flagg is the antagonist in the story. It is a young adult book. He wrote this when he first wrote this book. It was for his daughter, who was a teenager at the time, Naomi. And this takes place in the kingdom of Delain, where they are ruled by King Roland and his wife Sasha. And they have 2 children. Peter being the oldest, and then a few years later they have Thomas. Well, eventually Sasha gets poisoned and she dies. And so it's just Roland kind of running, being a king and take care of his sons. He's not that great of a dad. He's kind of, not really is struggling to be a good dad. And he doesn't have the best relationship with Thomas, but Peter is his favorite. And which, oh my god, that drives me crazy in the story, where you have that parent who picks a favorite child. I mean, create some drama and good conflict, but oh my god, it drives me crazy. And when you have a parent who does that, like, I feel so bad for the kid that feels like they're not the favorite, because I just think that's wrong for a parent to pick a favorite child, because that can really be damaging to the child that is seen as not the favorite. Anyway, so their dad also eventually dies as well, and Peter is, because he brings his dad wine every night, they think Peter poisoned his dad, and of course he's next in line for the throne, so they think, oh, he was trying to kill his dad to get to the kingdom, and he is put in jail. And meanwhile, Flagg takes full advantage of this and gets in Thomas, since he's the other child, he ends up being the king. And Thomas is very young and very insecure and doesn't know what he's doing, so he begs Flagg to stay and help advise him, and that's a big mistake on his part, but he doesn't understand that. He doesn't realize this, and he's also terrified of Flagg, and Flagg is a master manipulator, and and he is manipulating Thomas and making sure he's drinking wine all the time. He's drunk on wine. And which, by the way, I finally know when people talk about this book, I finally understand what people like Mike from Mike's Book Reviews mean by napkin, when they mention napkins. And how you will never think about them the same again. But anyway, so like I said, this is young adult, so it doesn't have as much it doesn't really have any cursing in it. Maybe a little bit here and there, but cursing that's like a teenager can handle or be exposed to. And I mean, I don't know, don't let that turn because there might not be any, I don't remember at the right this second. But it also, it still has some of his more crass humor. Like, there's a scene where Thomas is hiding and he's spying on his dad, and his dad is ranting at the animals he's hunted, that he has their heads on his wall, and he's ranting at them, and he's drunk, and he's farting and belching, as Thomas thinks it's really gross, and just realizes that his dad's just a man. And, so there's a little bit of that, and it does get a little bit detailed, but like I said, it's written for a teen reader, so it's not as bad. And there's also there's no love triangles. There's mentions of girls, but there's no actual main love interest or anything. It doesn't focus on that. Focus on the relationship between the 2 brothers, and the relationship with their father, and the relationship with Flagg. And it's it's starting to get into heist territory, where Peter's trying to figure out a way to escape his imprisonment. Stephen King also breaks the 4th wall a little bit in the book. He will address the reader in he will also, make reference to comparing things to modern things that, like modern versions of things that he mentions in the book. And there are times when I wish there had been more development in the book. I can't think of an example at the moment, but I do wish, like, and I think, like, the way he writes it has to do with, that fact it's for younger readers, so he feels like he can't write this the same way he would write his other books that are all for adults. Like, this is probably the only YA book that I think he's written. Although, The Talisman, I haven't read it yet, but that might be YA. Maybe, I don't know. But then again, maybe I'm just thinking it's YA because the main character in The Talisman, I think, is a young boy. And just because your main character's a teenager doesn't mean it's for kids. But anyway, I think it's very page-turning, very engaging story. Flag is creepy and, very a master manipulator. I would not trust him as far as I could throw him. And I am so terrified for Thomas. Because Thomas is not a bad kid. He's just, very jealous and angry at how he's kind of he was ignored by his father. And he's also very scared of Flag and being manipulated by him. But yeah, it's, as Mike from Mike's book reviews have pointed out, this is a coming of age story, and we kind of have two. Although I do feel from what I can tell, I do feel like it focuses more on Peter than Thomas. At least currently, with the section I'm at right now, particularly the section I'm at right now. But like with the last time I saw Mother, I'm almost done with this book, so it is one of his shorter works. I don't know if it's the same length or shorter or longer than Misery, because I feel like Misery is one of his shorter novels too. But anyway, I'll have to look, because I do have that one, because it's one of my favorites. I think I still have it. I have to look. I'll have to double check. I don't know if it's one of the ones I decided to, but anyway, I am enjoying this, and I think it's a good play if you're a teenager wanting to get into Stephen King. This might be a good place to start. It doesn't have his traditional horror elements in it. Like, it's definitely not, it's a fantasy book, but it's kind of a fantasy fairy tale book. Like, it's not an epic fantasy, it's probably more of a fairy tale story, but it has fantasy elements, but obviously it has fantasy in it. Fantasy elements to it. Anyway, so that is that. Now let's give you the book haul, and I will also have more books to show you. Well, actually, really only two, technically, to show you as later, because I did, at Thrift Books, they do have a, because the site knows my birthday, when my birthday is, so they offer a credit so that you can, buy books on, one free book on your birthday. So I took advantage of that. I was debating about waiting until after my birthday, because in case one of the books I wanted to buy for myself was a book that I had on my list, which I did, but I ended up taking both those books off the list. And I had, I don't think anyone had bought them yet, and okay, that was weird. I don't know if you guys see this when you watch my video, but there was like balloons that appeared on the screen. So I wonder if, because I mentioned my birthday, if that's why they appeared. But anyway, yeah, so I placed an order at Thrift Books, and I have 2 more books coming. And hopefully I will get them soon. But right now, let me show you the books I recently bought. They're all classics, or at least some, like, one of them I don't think is as well known. It's not like, I feel like not everything by Dickens is considered a classic, for instance. But anyway, so first, this is one I kept seeing at Black Castle Books, but I kept not buying it because it was a saga type story, so I would have to buy multiple books to get the whole story. But this particular copy has all the books in it, including the interludes, apparently. So this is the Forsyte Saga. It's one of those family stories, and I am constantly wanting to get more into those stories. But they're sagas, so they're very long. They're chunky books. I mean, although the one by F. Snell, I can't remember his last name. The one I just started getting, where I got the first book, is Dusk. I don't know if you guys remember looking at those books, but they're not that physically long. Although one of the books I ordered, it's 2 books in 1 volume, because surprisingly, getting book 2 as an individual book is more expensive than just getting the one big volume with books 2 and 3 in it, which I do not understand that logic. Apparently, that's how it is. So I just was like, let me just get this volume while I can. At Thrift Books, it's a good price, and that way I can jump into the book 3 right away. But they're not that physical. They don't, as individual books, they're not that long. I might actually have it here somewhere. Well, I would have to, let me see where, do I have it? Oh, it's right here, actually. Okay. See, it's this one. This is the first book, so it's not physically that long. This is one of his other books, but it's not part of the saga. It's a separate book. I do want to read that one as well. I don't know though. I might wait on that one and just focus on this one next. But see, this one isn't that long. It's Rosales Saga. But yeah, it's. Let's see what the page number is. Oh, good. There's a glossary in the back. Good. That'd be good to know. But yeah, the glossary is in the 320 pages. So counting the glossary, we have 323 pages. So yeah, it's not that long. Now, I don't know about, I think these were kind of chunky books when I looked at them as individual books. But, so I'm going to read the back, because I don't remember enough of what the back said to read off the top of my head. So, anyway, the Forsyte Saga is John Galworthy's monumental chronicle of the lives of the moneyed Forsytes, a family whose values are constantly at war with its passions. The story of Soames Forsyte's marriage to the beautiful, rebellious Irene and its effects upon the whole Forsyte clan. The Forsyte Saga is a brilliant social satire of the acquisitive sensibilities of the comfort-bound class and its final glory. Galworthy spares none of his characters, revealing their weaknesses and shortcomings as clearly as he does the tenacity and perseverance that define the strongest member of the Forsyte family. So, in the last paragraph says what this edition has in it, which are the 3 original novels, Man of Property, In Chancery, and To Let. They also have these connecting interludes, Indian Summer, Of a Forsyte, and Awakening. And this guy died in the 1930s, 1933. So I appreciate that way. That way I can get into the H book right away. I can jump in, I can read all of them at once. Or space them out, which is what I'm doing with the Huguenots connection. If I need to read that soon. I need to read the next book in that one soon. So we have each book has 3 parts in each book, it looks like. And there's an interlude between books 1 and 2. And then the next interlude comes between book 3 and 4. It comes between books 2 and 3. But yeah, I really want to read more Family Saga stories, so I'm excited to read this. And I also have that World War II duology. What is it called? Let me see. Okay, I know it's also around here somewhere, but it's not right in front of me, so I don't remember what it's called. The books that I had. And then I have like a couple others, because I thought I was no longer interested in World War II, but I actually am a lot more. I am interested in World War II, but I want to read different sides to World War II, because I feel like I've only mostly been exposed to one side of World War II. And it's not that it's not important, and it's not that I don't, but it's just sometimes it would be nice to read that I just want to read all the aspects, all the parts to World War II, all the perspectives, just like how, I want to read all the different perspectives of the important figures of the American Revolution, for instance. Like I've listened to the Ron Chernow's biography of Hamilton, an audiobook, and then I'm still in the middle of the John Adams biography of David McCullough. I did see another David McCullough book as there too, and I also saw another Ron Chernow book at the bookstore today. I almost bought those. I did think about it for a second. And I love doing that. That's so much fun. Like, this is why people love floppy books. Anyway, and then like one of the books I got from the author event my dad went to last year, that he went to again this year, but this time he had his own table, because he has his own books. He's his Shadows of Saigon, great, and he also has now he gets free and like a handful of copies of Sage of the Pines. But it's not out in the world yet. People can't buy it yet. I don't know if you can pre-order it on Amazon yet, but so I got his copies of that he I don't know, I'm assuming he can give those away. And so that he has he was able to have a table at this author event, this year's author event. And I was apprehensive about going. Like, he offered to just that I go with him to help him out a little bit, or at least if I wanted to go with him. But I was apprehensive about it because I read the first two books I got last year at that event, and they ended up not being not necessarily my cup of tea. Like, I still like them. I enjoyed them. But one of them was not my normal read, and I was kind of just trying it out and see if I could get into it. And the story was, I didn't mind it, but I felt like I could have used. I would have liked if it was a little bit longer. And that was Sophie's Pack, which I did a double review with that book being one of the books I reviewed in a video last year, and then the year before. And then I also read Ashes, which is kind of my thing. It's urban fantasy, so there were aspects, but I'm not as big into urban fantasy as I used to be. And sometimes I would just rather watch an urban fantasy. Watch it as a TV show or movie than read an urban fantasy book. I don't know why. There's just some genres that I prefer as on screen than reading in a book. It's still a cool book. It made me think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little bit, with its story and everything. But I had got 4 books, so 2 of them I had not read. One of them was Enemy Like Me, which is a World War II story. That's why I bring this whole thing up, because it's another World War II story from the perspective of the son of a German soldier, I think. And I was telling the author, when we talked to her, I was like, I'm not always crazy about World War II, but if it's a new perspective on World War II, then I'm interested. So that's why, I made sure to assure her that I was generally interested. That I wanted to buy one for books. Because I wanted to buy a book because it was from a perspective on World War II that I hadn't heard from. And which is why I did like reading Ruta Sepetys', she did 2 books. I think they were both World War II stories, just set from a different perspective. But yeah, and also there's always that risk of if you read so many books about the same subject or the same type of story, then you're going to get tired of it. I think that's what happened with romance novels and reading Nicholas Sparks. Like, I know that Nicholas Sparks does not encompass all of romance, but I read so many that I was like, I don't want to read another romance. Especially another Southern romance, because, like, Nicholas Sparks kind of gets repetitive and does the same type of story. They all take place in North Carolina, although the adaptations don't film in North Carolina, they actually film in South Carolina. And there's always, like, one of the towns in North Carolina, and you have someone from the outside coming in, and, it, like, always has the same kind of vibes. So I just was like, I don't want to read any more of that kind of stuff. So maybe that's what happened with World War II. I felt like I heard so much about World War II, particularly certain aspects of World War II, that I was like, okay, I want to read something different. I want to talk about a different war, read literature on a different war or something. But yeah, I have a duology that's a World War II duology around here somewhere that I did start before one of my trips to my grandma, and I like it so far, and it actually does, the characters do start are living in Manila at the time, actually, so I did not realize that, and until I started reading it, but anyway, so that's kind of a family saga story, kind of. There's that, and there's a few others that I have, like that one of the ones I recently got that I showed you guys. That's kind of a Scandinavian, I think it's Scandinavian or something, family that came to America, so it's kind of not just the family saga, but focuses on the immigrant experience. But anyway, so I'm gonna read this at some point. I'm eager to read this. So anyway. Okay, now we're finally gonna move on and talk about the other books. Okay, so the next known one is more like a known author, and that is Chekhov, Anton Chekhov, in a collection of his plays. So 2 of these I was actually familiar with. I read the Orchard. I cannot remember the author's name, but it's a book that Olive from Book Olive talked about, because she loves Russia, learning about Russia, and she's always trying different forms of Russian literature, and she had talked about reading that book, and I can't remember if she liked it or not, because I know she doesn't love all Russian literature. And in that book mentioned that one is inspired by the Cherry Orchard, which is in this collection. So I was excited to see that one, and then also the sequel is in this collection. I've heard about the sequel and how famous that one is. It also has Ivanov, Uncle Vanya, 3 Sisters, and the Cherry Orchard. And whenever I say Uncle Vanya, I will always hear Kelsey Grammer as what is the character's name in the animated Anastasia movie? Is it Vlad? It might be Vlad. His character name might be Vlad. But he always, when in the song, when they're trying to teach her all this information about, how she has to pretend to be the Russian princess, the lost Russian princess, teaching Anya and all the skills she has to learn and everything, all the knowledge she has to gain. And there's an Uncle Vanya in the Romanov family, so I'm always gonna hear his Kelsey Grammer with a Russian accent in my head saying Uncle Vanya. Anyway, so I am excited about this. So far, I've read Dostoevsky, and I've read two now. I've read two Dostoevskys, and I have read some short stories by Tolstoy, and I read one of his bigger novels, including his more religious folk tale stories. I read some of those. And now I want to read some Chekhov. He's other famous Russian author, and then also Master and Margarita by Bokov to read as well. So I'm excited to read this. Reading some Chekhov. And so here now let's talk about the one that it's not a known work. But first of all, I know this is probably going to sound silly, but what first got my attention is the spine of this book. It's just the title in a bright teal green color. But I recognize these editions because this is the NYRB edition. So New York, I don't know what the RB stands for. I'll look that up as well. I really like these editions. Like my Anglo-Saxon Attitudes was in this edition as well. And I did part with that book because as much as I liked it, I was like, am I going to read this again? Do I like it that much? And I can always rebuy it if I want to. Or, even get on Kindle or something. But anyway, I've recently, as you saw from my last book haul, I did attain other classics in these editions, but it caught me, I don't know why, but I really like this NRB edition. I like the look of it. So, this is The Slaves of Solitude by Patrick Hamilton. And it is another World War II story, actually. So, it's okay that I rambled on about World War II stories in this, because I have two World War, I do have a World War II story to mention. So I will first read the back description, and then I'm going to read this one has some blurbs on it. Two of them are by some known authors. Now, one of them I'm a little more familiar with than the other, but I've heard of the other as well. So, England in the middle of World War II, a war that seems fated to go on forever, a war that has become a way of life. Which, if you read the biography of, or memoir, it's a memoir of Julie Andrews, she talks about, in her first one, Home, she talks about World War II. She grew up during World War II. Heroic resistance is old hat. Everything is in short supply, and tempers are even shorter. Overwhelmed by the terrors and rigors of the Blitz, middle-aged Miss Roach has retreated to the relative safety of the Thames Lockton, where she rents a room in a boarding house run by Miss Payne, which my sister. That's my brother-in-law's last name, Payne. So no, it's not about my sister, but her last name is Payne. Her married name is Payne. There's the savvy, sensible, decent, but all too meek Miss Roach endures the dinner table interrogations of Mr. Thwaites and seeks to relieve her solitude by going out drinking and necking with a wayward American lieutenant. Life is almost unbearable until Vicky Klugeman, a seeming friend, moves into the adjacent room. That's when Miss Roach's troubles really begin. And then it says, recounting an epic battle of wills in the claustrophobic confines of the boarding house, Patrick Hamilton, The Slaves of Solitude, with a delightfully improbable heroine, is one of the finest and funniest books ever written about the trials of the lonely heart. Okay, so the top blurb is Nick Hornby. So at least he's the author that I've heard of on book 2, but I don't know off the top of my head what he's written. But he says, surprisingly modern, gritty, real, tough, and sardonic. If you are looking to fly from Dickens to Martin Amis with just one overnight stop, then Hamilton is your man. So, according to this blurb, he is a good transition between older works like Victorian works to more modern works. So he feels like this is a very modern story. No English writer has written so acutely about sexual infatuation, embarrassment, and self-delusion. That's the Time Out. I don't know if that's a magazine or something. So that one tells us that he writes very accurately about sexual infatuation, embarrassment, and self-delusion. Okay, and then this is the next one. This is by Sarah Waters. My favorites are the novels which capture the gloom, grubbiness, and paranoia of the 40s London life. For example, Patrick Hamilton's fabulously poignant The Slaves of Solitude. So this must have been a blurb that she wrote somewhere else, or maybe was being interviewed for something else. But she says, yeah, so this says that she likes his, he does a good job at writing about the grubbiness and paranoia and gloom of the 40s London. But I am excited to read this. This is cool. Like I said, I want to read other different types of aspects of World War II. And this is one of them. So anyway, so that is my bookish, what I'm currently reading, my bookish update, and also talking about what I recently purchased. And like I said, I have 2 more books coming in because, you know, their books gave me a free book credit because it's my birthday month. So I have 2 more books coming in. And like I said, one of them is a sequel that has the sequels to Dusk in it. And then the other one is a autobiography, I believe, about a famous historical figure in the Philippines. But anyway, which actually, going by the title, when I first looked at it, I thought it was by someone else, or it was a different book. Like I thought it was something else, just a different cover of this other book. But no, it actually is the book that it is actually the not that book, but a different book. And it's only on by like 1 word in the title because the titles are very similar. But there's just 1 word that's not in the title of this book. But anyway, I will show you those as well at some point. I don't know when. But anyway, if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe. If you're interested in more and watching more of my content, and click the bell icon below if you will be notified when I put up content. I hope you are enjoying your reading as well. Would love to know what you are currently reading right now. Feel free to share in the comments below. And I will talk to you all later. Bye!